Okay, this problem, the directions say we need to solve the equation. Notice the key word there is solve. Okay, that means when we get to the end of the problem, we should have two answers like W equals something. Okay, that cut off for some reason. Okay, so we need to solve this. So with this type of problem, because it's a quadratic equation, it has that W squared. This is one, and it has another term with a W in it. We're going to want to get everything to one side and set it equal to 0. So we'll have then 12W squared minus 1W minus 6 equals 0. Okay, so those ones canceled. So that's our first step. We want to get it all set equal to 0. Okay, next we're going to want to factor this out. Now, because the number in front of the W squared is not a 1, we're going to need to do the rainbow method. So just a reminder on what that is, we take the 12, take the negative 6, and we're going to multiply those two together. So 12 times negative 6 is negative 72. So we're going to want factors of negative 72 that add up to negative 1. So we can write those all out. We'd have 2 and 36. We'd have 3 and 24. We'd have 4 and 18. 5 doesn't go in. 6 does 12 times, which we just did that one. 7 doesn't, and then we'd have 8 and 9. So those are our different factors. Those are our different options. Now notice, because they have to multiply to equal a negative number, one needs to be negative and one needs to be positive. So we can kind of check, like negative 2 plus 36 is definitely not going to equal a negative 1 if we add these two together. We can change all these to add. And even if we put the negative with 36, we can still see that's not going to work. Same with negative 3 plus 24. There's no way we can make those add to negative 1. Negative 4 plus 18, same. And you're probably seeing we can go down the line no matter which one the negative's with, it's not going to work until we get to this one. So I could do a negative 8 plus 9. That does not equal a negative 1. But if I did 8 plus a negative 9, if I made the 9 negative, that would equal a negative 1. And so 8 and negative 9 are going to be the two factors I'm going to use. Okay, so let's rewrite this equation then with those two factors. So I have 12W squared. We'll just put the minus 9W first, plus 8W minus 6. So we're just rewriting this. Notice negative 1W has just kind of gotten put into negative 9 plus 8 because it equals the same thing. It's just a way to expand it. And then we can do this factor by grouping. So I'm going to break those two up. We're going to look for the greatest common factor here. I can see a 3 would divide out of both, and then 1W. So 12W squared divided by 3W is just going to give me 4W. The 9 divided by 3 will leave me with a 3 and then no W left. Okay, the second one looks like they're both even, so I can see a 2 would come out, and I think that's going to be the highest. So plus 2, 8W divided by 2, I'm left with 4W. Negative 6 divided by 2, I'm left with a negative 3, which is great news. We've got 4W minus 3 the same in both of these terms, so one term, two term. And so then I can factor out the 4W minus 3. So 4W minus 3, I'll factor that out of both terms. In this first term, I'm just left with the 3W. In this second term, I'm left with plus 2. There's no W squared, so I can see this is the farthest I can go. Now, how could we check this to make sure this was the right answer? Well, one way, oh my gosh, and I'm so glad we got to this point, because you feel like we want to be done right here, right? But, so we'll pause here for just a sec. We can check that this is the right answer by multiplying it out and making sure it adds up to 12W squared minus 1W minus 6. So luckily, at first my brain was like, yeah, we're done right here. Luckily, I'm in a habit when I'm done with a problem just to kind of check and make sure I've done everything. So I went up to look and I had underlined solve, and that reminded me I have to solve the equation. I have factored the equation, but I have not solved it. And so we need to solve it. This is still equal to 0. And so we actually need values for W. So what we're going to do is we're going to set each of these factors equal to 0 to find the values of W that will make them 0. So first let's do 4W minus 3 equals 0, plus 3 plus 3. So those cancel. I get 4W equals 3. Divide by 4 on each side. So W is just going to equal 3/4. So there's my first one. Okay. Let's do 3W plus 2 now. Set that equal to 0. So minus 2 from each side. Those 2's cancel. I get 3W equals a negative 2. Divide by 3 on each side. And so my other answer is going to be negative 2/3. Again, I look up to the directions. It doesn't say anything about the final form, so I'm just going to leave them like this. And that would be my final answer. So lesson learned, I hope when you get these solve equations that you maybe underline the solve or put a square around it, just so you remember to do that. Let me know if you're feeling confused.